That's another series win as your Detroit Tigers are 3.5 out. Let's talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, September 9th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And your team is 3.5 out of the American League wild card. 3.5 games out with about 18 games to go. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks free of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Monday. Hope your weekend was stellar. We had NFL football back. Great weekend of college football and a fantastic weekend of Detroit Tigers baseball. That's probably not true. It was not the prettiest weekend of Tigers ball. Sunday was great. Obviously, a 9-1 victory, I think, ended up being the final there. Sunday was great. Sunday was great. Saturday, 2-1 victory, probably a little bit closer than it should have been. And then Friday was a complete bleep show. To be completely honest with you, they lose 6-7 in 13 innings? It was ridiculous. It was one of the more ridiculous baseball games I have ever watched, and I genuinely mean that. So, what does that all get you? Gets you a 73-71 record coming out of the weekend. I really do look at this series, this weekend set, and I kind of just say, I'll take it. Right? Should the Tigers have swept? Absolutely. Absolutely. And is it frustrating or maybe just flat out like a failure that they didn't? Yeah, probably. Right? Probably. And should my expectations maybe be higher against a team like the Oakland A's? Maybe. I don't know. I have always kind of been this season where the Tigers are at, I am not asking them to sweep anybody outside of maybe the White Sox. Sweeping someone, especially on the road, is very difficult. But, again, it was within reach. In hindsight, you should have. But at the end of the day, you just took 2 of 3 on the road against an inferior team, but one that you struggle with mightily, especially when you're playing in Oakland. The Tigers are terrible in Oakland and have been for years, excluding the playoffs. For who knows what reason. I couldn't tell you. I wish I knew. I would do something about it if I knew, or try my best. But I'll take it because they took 2 of 3, and they are now 3.5 games out of the American League wildcard. And that is freaking awesome. Let's talk about what went right this weekend. Goes without saying, the offensive performance on Sunday was absolutely fantastic. Pretty much everybody was contributing. You had a lot of contributions from the middle of the lineup as well. You had a lot of extra base hits, which is something that we are not accustomed to and haven't been accustomed to over the last few years of this team. So seeing a lot of, we'll talk about Trey Sweeney in a second, but even outside of him, it was a lot of doubles, a lot of driving the ball, a lot of being aggressive on the base paths, which we talked about, is kind of a give and take thing. There are certainly some moments where that's frustrating, but it worked out really well on Sunday and ended up putting up a 9 spot on the Oakland A's. Stripling, man, what happened to his career? I remember back when he was with the Dodgers, his rookie or maybe his second year, and everybody thought that Ross Stripling was like the future, and he had really high expectations, really high saying. I know he dealt with a lot of injury stuff, and that's super unfortunate because he was a pretty impressive arm. But yeah, just hasn't been able to find it. Where he ended up in Toronto, I think, for a year maybe, and was kind of like a swing man. Started a few games. Just a wild career path. So hoping that he can turn it around. But the Tigers hit him silly on Sunday. And I think when we're talking about individuals and players that stood out in this series, it's kind of impossible not to start with Parker Meadows. That there might be players that individual, like statistically, had maybe slightly better weekends, but he had one of your 2 RBIs on Saturday. He had a huge hit to kind of put the game out of the reach and really end the ball game on Sunday, and then went 2 for 7 with 2 RBIs as well on Friday. Like he brought in a run, at least one run in every single game this weekend, including obviously the clutch hit on Sunday. So he has just been fantastic and continues to be absolutely fantastic. And I think the thing in the batter's box that impressed me the most about his performance this weekend was, I feel like I'm saying weekend a lot, but I don't know how else to it's just series and weekend against the A's. Sure. It is that big hit on Sunday was a lot of, he is continuing to get fed velocity away because he has struggled with that all season. And lately, grand slam, Friday's ball game, and then again on Sunday, has been handling it so much better. A lot of adjustments, really, really impressive stuff. And that big hit on Sunday in the 8th inning was a sinker low and away that he just flicked the wrist, dumped out into left field, and let him and his legs obviously do the rest. And that scored a couple of runs. Again, I think that made it 3-1 to 5-1. So kind of put the game out of reach there. Just absolutely beautiful, and continues to be such a huge part of this team's success. They were talking about it on the broadcast. We've talked about it a lot on this show. The Tigers record, when we do our player reviews at the end of the season and we go through every individual player, we do a deep dive on their 2024, what we want to see them improve on, what they were good at, et cetera, et cetera. We will absolutely pull up the record the Tigers had in games that Parker Meadows played in and Parker Meadows didn't play in, because it is vastly different. Okay. So he continues to be a huge reason why this team is succeeding lately. Another huge reason on Sunday was Trey Sweeney. Now, he didn't have any other hits this weekend, but on Sunday, he was absolutely stellar. I believe he ended up going 4 for 4, unless they hit around there in the back in the 9th inning. I was making my show sheet at the end of the 9th inning, so I was kind of half paying attention. It was an 8-1 game, and I wanted to get ahead of it there. But at 4 hits, absolutely phenomenal day at the office. One of those hits obviously being an absolute tank to right field. Trey Sweeney is very interesting because his swing is so long and the bat stays in the zone for so long that I do think that there is potential there. It's just that it's about, to me, my question is, if he consistently faces velocity, is he going to be able to handle it at the major league level because of how long and kind of loopy, I guess I'll say, his swing can be. So seeing him have a big day is always good. Crushed a lot of off speed, crushed a lot of sliders low in the zone. That's great. Still waiting to see him consistently hit fastball, especially up in the zone. But again, this game on Sunday was a huge step in the right direction. And I think with him specifically, the outlook of the rest of this season and the outlook of this team in 2025, I think is somewhat different, maybe even vastly different if Trey Sweeney proves he can hit at the major league level, right? Like, if you're talking about having a borderline everyday shortstop the rest of this season, and then you're going into next season with a legitimate option over there that's not named Javi Baez, I think the whole outlook of what this infield and what this team could look like changed. I'm not trying to say like Trey Sweeney is the key to the entire team's success. I don't think that's true. But I do think that him hitting would add a ton of value to this team as they look towards the future. So that's a pretty good day on Sunday, and pretty important to see him succeed, I think. We're going to talk about Jace Young, who also had a pretty important weekend, also could turn some heads going into 2025, similar to Sweeney if he hits well the rest of this year. We'll talk about all of that and more right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel a lot, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow. Tigers have an off day tomorrow, but we will be back getting ready for that Rocky series starting on Tuesday. And after you make us your first listen, make Locked On MLB your second listen. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here to provide his daily national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs that the Detroit Tigers are only 3.5 games out of, baby. Again, Locked On MLB on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So talking about what went right this weekend, Jace Young had a pretty darn good good weekend, rather, with 3 or 4 hits in total. Had a multi-hit game, I believe, on Friday. I wanted to lift the baseball. It's really where I'm at with Jace Young currently. He's putting the ball in play a decent amount, still adjusting, has some swing and miss stuff to work on, especially with velocity up in the zone. Not a surprise. Most guys, when they first get called up, that's something that they do have to work with, and his mechanics are kind of wonky enough where that was somewhat expected. But, when he is making contact, it's just all on the ground. All of it. It's ground balls, ground balls, ground balls, ground balls. So I'm looking for him to make an adjustment. I think that's probably slightly a timing thing, just being a little bit earlier so that you can get the barrel under the ball there. And because he pulled the baseball a little bit on Friday for some of the first time we've seen. He was going on the ground away an awful lot in his first few weeks. And so to see him pull the ball a little bit on Friday was great. Now it's about lifting, elevate, levitate. Shout out Kendrick Lamar. But it's one of those things that I am constantly watching for him to make that adjustment. And I think he will. I think Jace Young has proven that he can make those adjustments at the next level. That's just the next one I'm waiting on at the major league level. But really solid weekend, and is hitting the ball decently hard, just on the ground, getting it through the infield. Had a nice clutch hit on Friday as well. Solid weekend all around for him. And then the pitching, I've said it a lot, but the pitching continues to be just like the unsung hero of this entire thing. And maybe it's not unsung. Maybe the fan base has realized it by now. But, so many people want to point at the big hitters in the lineup and go, that's why we're winning. That's why we're winning. This offense is not a juggernaut. It still is not a juggernaut. They're winning games because Brant Herter is going 5 1/3, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Ty Madden is going 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. The bullpen, outside of the Manfred runners, which don't count as earned runs, was phenomenal this weekend. Sean Gunther, Jason Foley, Hannafy, Foley. I just said Foley twice. Vanasco, right? New addition to the Tigers. Shutout ball since joining the team. Bo Brisky, obviously. Tyler Holton. There have just been so much contribution. There has been so much contribution for so many different names. And so many of them are names that I never in a million years expected to be pitching such important and productive innings for the Tigers late in the season. In the beginning of the year, I came on here, I was like, wow, this bullpen is disgusting. It's really good. And then in the middle of the season, it kind of fell apart, and it was in complete shambles there in June and for some of July. And then they had some roster turnover in the bullpen. There were some guys that a lot currently that weren't on the team in the beginning and middle of the year, and then have gotten called up and have been lights out. They've been beyond stellar. And so That's such a testament to A, the pitching depth that this organization has acquired. That's credit to the front office. B, the pitching development that this front office and this coaching pitching staff have been so good at. Feder, Lund, Nieves, and then again, obviously, some of the development staff in the front office that we talk about all the time. Like it's a well-oiled machine, and it's such a huge night and day difference from how things used to be in this organization. And I think that they all deserve all the credit in the world. This is remarkable. Like I really can't understate or I can't overstate how kind of ridiculous it is to be getting so many good, productive innings out of the pen from a lot of the names that I just read you. Never in a million years did I expect that. And that's, I will gladly eat my words and be wrong about that if it means the Tigers bullpen is much better than it was at the middle of this season. Colt Keith, I also thought, had a really solid weekend, which was great to see. He had a hit in every single game this series and had a multi-hit game on Sunday. It's really nice to see him producing again because he had the week and a half, 7 to 10 game stretch where he was really struggling and didn't look very good at all. So really nice turnaround there. Nice to see him putting the bat on the ball again, driving the ball. Still wanted to see him like really consistently pull and lift the baseball, especially on fastballs. I want to see him like turn and burn on a heater to the pull side with any remote consistency, but that might even be like a next year development point. This year, the approach is clearly a step up from what it was at the beginning. We'll take it, and we'll take this weekend. What went wrong? It was not without some hiccups this series. Obviously, the loss on Friday was ridiculous. We can start there. That was absolute nonsense. And I do think that some of that falls on AJ. I thought that the bullpen management was questionable at best on Friday. Look, I'm not trying to just like jump on the pile here or anything, right? Because he's kind of taking it in the teeth after this weekend. But from a pure baseball perspective, Shelby Miller cannot be on this team next year. You cannot. I think he has an option, maybe. Like you can't pick up his option or re-sign him, whatever his contract situation is. We'll talk about that in the offseason. He cannot be a part of this bullpen next year. This has not worked. I didn't mind the signing when it happened, but I also didn't expect him to be like the highest leverage reliever on the team, pitching in situations like that. It just can't happen. So that stung. But to the not credit, but to be fair to Shelby Miller, the Tigers also should have won that ball game about 8 different times over. I mean, my goodness, they went 4 for 19 with runners in scoring position. That is a real stat. 4 for 19. You had about 1 million chances to win and just could not execute. Parker Meadows, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Greene, like it didn't matter. All the best hitters on the team came up in clutch situations and it didn't matter. Didn't matter at all. Couldn't execute. And like the Tigers lost 7-6. They gave up 3 earned runs. All the rest were Manfred runners, unearned. It just Friday really sucked because it felt like a young team doing a stupid young team thing and not putting a game away and letting a team, like you had a lead, you had a decent lead and just pissed it away. It was really, really frustrating in the moment. And I'm glad that it was on a Friday and I didn't have to come on here and do a show immediately following the game and talk about how doom and gloom everything was. And be so reactionary because it let the weekend breathe, which ended up, they bounced back. I would have said at the end of that show, you know what, this isn't going to sting as bad if you win the next 2. And that's what they did. More power to them. So absolutely incredible job to bounce back. I think that's unbelievably important. It's the most important thing. And the fact that they still won the series is something that not all young teams do. And that's something that good teams do. You put bad losses behind you, you move on, you don't let 1 become 3, become 7, and you go out there and you still win a series. So tip of the cap. Got a couple more things that went wrong this week, and then we'll talk stuff. Okay, we'll do that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Torkelson had a rough weekend. I'm not going to pick on him too hard. Not going to, pile on there, but rough at the plate for sure. Only had one hit, I want to say, the entire weekend. Couple offers in there. Is working the count on Sunday, did drive the ball a little bit, just got a glove under it. The outfielders did. So don't want to make too much out of it, but pretty rough weekend results wise for him. And then on top of that, the base running on Sunday was atrocious. And I know nobody cares because they ended up winning by 8, but I have OCD. Okay. Peek behind the curtain. Okay. Diagnosed. Big thing with my therapist and I'm not just going to let it go. And it was brutal base running, specifically by Torkelson on Sunday. And really, it wasn't just him either. The whole team had brutal base running on Sunday's game. It just, no one's going to care or notice or talk about it because they absolutely throttled the A's. So it's okay, but you got to go to third on that play for Torkelson. And then McKinstry, a couple hits later, rough base running there. That inning, for as many runs as they scored, should have probably, they probably should have put them away earlier in the ball game, but unfortunately didn't. But fortunately, it doesn't matter. So that's just me being overcritical, I think, probably. Stuff. Tarik Skubal. He's going to find himself in stuff today. 5 2/3, 9 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 7 Ks. I really don't think this was a bad performance. Some people were freaking out. He kind of got babbipped to death. Batting average, balls in play. Just was kind of unlucky. He was executing pitches, I thought, decently well. I didn't think he was missing his spots. I didn't think the stuff sucked. It's just baseball is baseball sometimes. And you're going to find a lot of bloopers that fall some games. They're going to hit ground balls that sneak under Torkelson's glove at first, which happened. I'm not losing sleep over it. He also was an out away from still having a, better than a quality start. So I think the Tigers should have won that game. It's not on him that it went into extras and was ridiculously stupid. I was fine with the outing, but just wanted to clarify kind of where I stood because some people were really freaking out, which kind of confused me a little bit because I didn't think it was that bad of an outing. You have an off day on Monday. The Twins play the Angels. You could be 3 games back going into Tuesday's game against the Rockies, who are 54-90, and it's at home, not at Coors. Exciting. Last thing before I get you out of here, Jackson Jobe promoted to AAA. Really exciting for a lot of reasons. One, just seeing him play the next level up in competition. Really awesome. Excited to see how he looks against those against better hitters and players that are actually on the 40-man roster and players who have been in the majors before and the extended major league roster that is AAA. That'll be exciting. But the thing I think that it gets me the most excited about Torkelson, goodness, but Jobe getting promoted to AAA is some comments that Scott Harris made where he said, Jobe is not going to go from AA to the majors. So if he were to end the season, you already are smiling with me and seeing where I'm going here. If he were to end the season in AA, that would mean that he had no chance of making the Detroit Tigers roster on opening day in 2025. However, he's dipping his big toe in the AAA pond here to end 2024. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I'm not trying to hype it up. I actually would probably have my money on him not making the opening day roster as it stands right now. But that doesn't mean by December. We're looking at the free agent market and what this team has and going, I think there's an opening in the rotation for somebody. And that's also not to say that come spring training 2025, we're not looking around going, wow, well, he looks really good. And so isn't a guaranteed starter. Congratulations, Jackson Jobe. All I'm saying is now they have set themselves up where if he pitches well these last, 4 or 5 starts, however many outings he gets here to end the season in AAA, they can at least have the conversation going into next season. And that's awesome. You know what else is awesome? The fact that the Tigers are 3.5 games out of it. I was very wrong. I was very wrong about these post-deadline Detroit Tigers, and that makes me very happy. I'm very happy to be wrong always when it benefits the Detroit Tigers and the Detroit Tigers organization. I remember coming on here and talking about how I thought that there was a chance that this could get really ugly really quickly after the deadline and that they were going to be really bad and the bottom was going to fall out. And that I didn't expect to win too many games, and I kind of expected it to be a bleep show. And they have not only not been really bad or not been, a bleep show, they have been incredible. And they have now won, I believe it's 11 of their last 16 games. They're 3.5 out of it. The Twins are absolutely falling apart. And there's a chance you're 3 out of it with 18 games to play. And, 3 games is a lot different than like the 5 or 6 game conversation we were having going into September, because those conversations are okay. Like you're still like out of it though. Like you're not, you're not making that up in a series or really even 2 series probably. Now, making that up in a series is like legitimately possible. I'm not saying it's likely. The Twins play the Angels. The Angels are really bad. We just played the Angels a couple weeks ago. Okay. They probably take 2 of 3 from them. But the fact that in 3 games, you could find yourself there is just, it's within reach. It's like when you're playing a game of baseball and you're within 4 runs. It's like, okay, well, you're within a swing, right? Unlikely. But if you load the bases, you're still within a swing. You're 3.5 back, chance to be 3 back, depending on what happens on Monday. You're within a swing. And that's doable, and that's exciting. And I can't think of a fan base that deserves it more, given how the last 8 years have gone. And I'm just so happy to have meaningful baseball in the month of September. Off day tomorrow, Rockies Tuesday. Let's get weird. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. Go Tigers.